Okay, so we learn about the story in Chag HaShavuot. We're doing Parshat Chukat now. Chag HaShavuot, about the two nations that didn't let us go through their land, anything, and go just on the main road, to shorten taking so many people, children and cattle and everything else around. And those were Ammon and Moab, and that's why we are now allowed to marry people from Ammon and Moab. Ruth was a woman, and her time is when the Paschal said the law that it's talking about not marrying the males of Ammon and Moab, but not the females, and that's why Ruth was allowed to marry Boaz. Okay, so at the end of the parsha, we have the story of Moshe sending again spies to an area that is on this side of the Yarden, on the east side of the Yarden. It's called Me'ever LaYarden HaMizrachi, which is a city called Yazer, and then we hear how they conquer it, and then how the two tribes of Gad and Reuven and Gad decide to stay there. Okay, this is how the parsha more or less ends. Okay, so let's go to the Haftorah. What is the Haftorah talking about, and what is the connection to the Haftorah with the parsha? Gave you a little bit background, and let me see if I can open up the Haftorah. I don't know why my computer is not. No, this is not the one I wanted. I'll open this and then go back. So here. Okay, so we have the Haftorah of this week's parsha that connects to the story of Ammon and Moab, of them actually in the times of the judges conquering back the land and the Jews that were settled on it, and not wanting to give it, and how the Jews are starting to fight back for sovereignty over that area. Okay, so we said that Jews settled on the east side of the Jordan, opposite Yericho, that area. It belonged once to the Emori and Ammon and Moab. We'll soon see the Emori conquered. We had Og and Sichon, Moab and Emor, but they conquered the whole Moab and Ammon area. So we're just going to make it a one area, because in the parsha there's a lot of kings, and it could mix up. We'll soon see that. So we're just going to call that territory that's on the east side of the Yarden. We see that 2.5 Shvatim in the times of Moshe settled there. They, of course, settled there by condition of Moshe Rabbeinu, that they go out first and help the Jews fight to enter into Israel, which took at least 14 years. And then they could go back and join their families on the east side of the Jordan River. Okay, and now we're going fast forward many years towards the end of the Judges. Okay, we have Yoshua, and then we have the Shoftim. Yoshua ruled, and then we had the Judges, and then we go into the prophets. So we're going into the end of the timeline of end of the Shoftim, and it's in the year 2000. I wrote it down. It's in the year. Okay. This takes place in the period of the Judges in the year 2787. This is written. I took it from what's written in the Chayenu. Okay. So what happened? The Jews got at that side of the territories. Started being influenced under the Goyim there, and they sinned. And in 2770, about, or earlier, they 2770, the Jews started doing tshuva, coming back to Hashem. And once they started doing tshuva, they wanted to take off the yoke of the Ammonim. The Ammonim, we said, conquered them. Ammonim off their heads and be joined back to be under the Shoftim, to be connected to Eretz Yisrael. So this story takes place in 2787, 17 years after doing tshuva. The Jews, that area was under the Ammonim about 18 years, okay? And the story is the story of Yiftach HaGiladi, who was called to help to conquer back this land, to fight against the Ammonim, to release that territory with the Jews who inhabited back to join the Jewish territory, Eretz Yisrael, on the other side of the Yarden. I hope I was clear. Okay, so this tells the story of Yifat, who later became one of our leaders. Okay, it starts with his background. Yiftach HaGiladi was a mighty man, Haya Gibor Chayil, as you see in the Hebrew, and he was the son of a Zonah. His father's never married his mother. And then his father's wife, Gilad, his father was Gilad, bore him other sons, and these sons grew up, and they threw Yiftach out, and they said to him, "You will not inherit our father's house, and because you're the son of another woman." Halachically, they were incorrect. The halacha was on the side of Yiftach, but he decided instead of fighting them, he ran. He went to a different place, and he went to the area called Tov, which is mentioned someplace else. And there he started gathering more simple people around him, and he became a leader. He showed that he had leadership skills. Okay, now we're coming to the story that the people of Ammon fought with Am Yisrael. And when they fought with Am Yisrael, the people of Gilad decided to call Yiftach from the city of Tov to be their leader and to fight. They needed a leader, a mighty warrior. That's why it starts. Yiftach HaGiladi was a mighty warrior of valor. Okay, so they were looking for, I'm not going to, it goes, they looked for people all over, and they came upon Yiftach, and they decided to turn to him. And he starts negotiating with them. They promised whoever would save them and be victorious will become the leader. And they promised a very big prize, the Jewish people. And Yiftach here is actually negotiating with them. Where were you when my brothers were against me and all that? Okay. And they came to him and they say, "Come, become our chief, and we will fight the people of Ammon." And Yiftach said to the elders, "Did you not hate me and drive me from my father's house? So why have you come to me now when you're in distress?" Sounds familiar? The elders of Gilad said to Yiftach, "Therefore we return to you now, and you shall go with us, and you will fight with the children of Ammon." And Gilad is mentioned in the Parsha. This is on the eastern side of the Yarden before you cross it into Israel. So Yiftach said, "Okay, if I, b'shem Hashem, and Hashem delivers them before me," so we see his personality, doesn't take he was a God-fearing man. He says, I will become your head. And they said, the Lord shall hear between us, if not according to your word, we will do. They promised him. Okay, and he goes and they appoint him chief, and he starts his negotiation now with the king of Ammon. Maybe we don't have to go straight to war. And he brings back the history that I gave you that is in our parsha. Okay, so there he's going back that the king the king of Ammon says to the messengers, Israel took my land. It's so actual, it's so apropos now of people telling us we took the land. We did it. Okay. He says, Arnon and up to the Yabok and up to the Jordan, and now restore them peacefully. Okay, I'm not arguing. It's my land. You took it from us when we went out of Egypt, when you guys went out of Egypt. And it's all about the Yarden. It's, it's interesting. I just want to stop sharing for a second. We had on Shabbat this last week a couple that just moved into Tel Aviv, and we're hosting them. And I asked him, what's he doing? He says he's here for water issues. So I said, like, for water issues? Like, if it leaks in my house, such a type of thing? That type of water issues? So he says, no, much bigger water issues of all and the UN and the Goyim, that the Yarden, the Jordan River, should be, sound keeps fading. I could. Do you hear me now? Trying to think where to go. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my computer or working in the street. Okay, I got closer to the router. Maybe it'll help. Okay, so he explained us all the fights in the beginning after the War of Independence to get part of the Jordan. Actually, the border between us and Jordan goes in the middle of the Jordan River. And then we needed the water for irrigation and for drinking water, and how the Jordans and the Syrians negated every proposition that we had from the Hermon, bringing down the water or lifting the water up with pipes we wanted to do. And he said the whole 6-day war actually broke out because of Israel bringing down water from the Yarden into the country, and how they were we here? Yes. So he says, so they said, no, when you took and came out of Egypt, you took over our country, and now we want to stay, restore it peacefully. So Yiftach continued sending messengers to them and explaining to them that it's not true. He said that Israel didn't take the land from Moab and the land from Ammon, because if you look in our parsha, we didn't fight, and We cannot marry them forever. Who did we fight? We fought the Emori. This is Ammon, and there's the Emori. The Emori conquered Moab and Ammon, and therefore we ended up fighting the Emori, Moshe Rabbeinu. When he fought in this week's parsha, you will see Sichon Melech Emor. Sichon captured Ammon and Moab. We captured Sichon, the Emori. We got the whole land that included Ammon and Moab. He says, because when they came up from Egypt, he's giving them the history lesson that we all know. Israel went through the wilderness up to the Red Sea, and they came to Kodesh. And at that time, Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, let us pass through your land. And the king of Edom didn't listen. And also the king of Moab he sent, and he wasn't willing. And they went through the wilderness and went around the land of Edom and the land of Moab. And they came east of the land of Moab, and they encamped on the other side of the Arnon, and they didn't come within the borders of Arnon and Moab. We weren't thinking of war with you guys at all. Then we sent messages to Sichon, the king of Emori, this week's parsha, the king of Heshbon, and said to him, let us pass. And Sichon did not trust Israel to pass through his borders. And Sichon gathered all his people and encamped them in Yahaz. And he fought with Israel. Sichon started the war. And Hashem then said and delivered Sichon and all his people in the hands of Israel, and they struck them. And Israel possessed all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitant of the land. And that included Moab and Ammon also. And they possessed all the borders of Emori from Arnon up the Yabok and from the wilderness of Jordan. So Yiftach here is answering back and bringing up history. It's like the Palestinians telling us that they're here since, the beginning of time. And we always have to remind the UN and the world, no, it's not true. There's no such a thing of a Palestinian country in the Bible or anything else. And Hashem gives us the land, okay? And he says, and now, this is Yiftach talking, Hashem has driven out the Amoris from his land of Israel, and you wanted to possess it? God sent you out from it. We're living here already since we came out of Mitzrayim. Is it not which Chomesh your God gives you to possess and that you may possess, and all that which your Hashem has driven out from before us that we shall possess? Okay, so they have this argument, and he brings up, Pashat Balak, which we will be doing. Are you any better from Balak, the son of Tzipor, Melech Moab? Did he not strive with Israel? Did he not fight against them? When Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its towns and in Aror, everything that we are reading in our parsha, why did not you recover them at that time? It's 300 years. And then he says, I have not sinned against you, and you do wrong by fighting against me. May Hashem, the judge, decide this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. Now, I just want to interject something that has to do with the parsha, but we are talking about area on the east side of the Jordan. Does it or does it not belong to us? It's like a great question. 1 second. In this parsha, we learn that the two tribes, Reuven and Gad, ask Moshe, could we settle here? And Moshe is shocked. Like, we're talking about going into Israel. We just finished losing all the Jews. Like I said in the beginning of the class, we're talking about the 40th year before going into Israel. For 40 years, 38 years, we've been burying people who died through the years because of the sin of the spies. So we have two things at the end of the parsha. That is, the Rebbe has a beautiful sikha. I learned it this week. I taught it this week on Monday. Why did Moshe send spies to Yazer? the city that we just read, how to conquer it, and they conquered it in Moshe's time, which is on the east side of the Jordan. And because they conquered it, the two tribes, Reuven and Gad, that had a lot of sheep, cattle, wanted this piece of land because it was very, very fertile for pasture. So Moshe was upset. He said, don't you want to go into Israel? We just lost all the people who didn't want to go into Israel, all those that cried when the spies came back. And you're asking to stay here? While your brothers are going to be fighting to get into Israel and have to conquer it and have to settle it and have to start everything, and just because you see fertile land because of sheep? And the Rebbe explains that, and at the end Moshe lets them. They stayed, and he connected them. Also, half of the tribe of Menashe joined them to teach them and to keep them according to Torah mitzvahs. And then we read that in the year 2700, they became very low in their level of Torah mitzvah till they did Shuvah. And now comes the story of Yiftach going to bring to conquer it back from the Amori, because the Ammonim actually took them over when they became lax in Torah mitzvahs. But how did the Jews settle there, lechatchila? So it started with these two tribes. So in this week's parsha, the Rebbe asks, mention it, Knani, Achiti, Emori, Yebusi, Girgashi, right? So Moshe, when Hashem promised Abraham, Eretz Yisrael, that we will inherit Eretz Yisrael, Hashem mentions 10 countries, all those that Moshe mentions through the 40 years, that if you look in the Chumash in this week's parsha also. And Moshe doesn't mention 3 countries, Haknizi, nations, it's not countries, it's nations. Haknizi, Kizi, Hagergashi. He doesn't mention these 3. And the Rebbe explains that those 3 nations are where the Jews are now before they go into Eretz Yisrael. And those 3 nations are going to be conquered in Eretz Hashem when Mashiach comes. So actually, what the 2 Shvatim are saying, we want to stay here to show that we believe that the prophecy of Mashiach coming is going to happen. We are taking a part of it, the Gilad, just part, Yazer and Gilad, the 2 cities. And we will be here and take hold of this, and to show that we do believe, we're not the Meraglim that say we don't want, and we don't believe that God will be able to help us conquer, or God will conquer Eretz Yisrael. Lehefech, we, by our settling here, we are proving that Mashiach is coming, and we will have, because Moshe only spoke about the 7, and Yoshua, we only conquered the 7. By the way, Chassidus explains all these 10 nations are connected the 10 sfirot. And the 7 are actually the emotional, and that's what we were doing till now. And now we have to go more to Chachma Bina Das, and that's why learning Chassidus is so v'yafutzu ma'nesecha chutza. When will Mashiach come? When yafutzu ma'nesecha chutza, and that is connected these 3 nations. So in this week's parsha, when Reuven and Gad settle on this side, is really grasping, starting, holding land that really we will get when Mashiach comes. Okay, so Gilad is, so Yiftach is fighting here to release it again after it was in our hands, and the Ammonim came back claiming that it's really theirs. And he's saying, no, same way you believe your God gives you, we believe our God, and their God, their Avodah Zarah, is mentioned in this parsha. What's his name? Chemosh. Okay. Okay, so he didn't listen, lo shama melech Amon. He did not listen to the words of Yiftach, and Hashem sent a Ruach Hashem on Yiftach, as you see. Hashem made him be possessed with spiritual strength and power and Yer Shamayim, and he went over Gilad and Menashe, and he passed over Mitzpeh Gilad, and from Mitzpeh Gilad he passed over to the children of Ammon, meaning he took them over. And here we have the story of the vow of Yiftach. Yiftach vowed a vow to Hashem and said, if you will indeed deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, and it will be whatever comes forth that shall come forth from the doors of my house towards me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall be to the Hashem, and I will offer him up for a burnt offering. And he wins the war, and Hashem delivers them in his hand. And he struck them from Ar until Ar, until the city of Minit, 20 cities, until Abel Tamim, a very, very big fight, a very, very big slaughter, and the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. So this is the Haftorah. It connects in many ways, because here we're Mashiach, and how it was taken over by Ammon again in the times of the judges, and how Yiftach, who was pushed away by his siblings, is again chosen. He was surrounded by simple people. It shows also that our leaders don't have to be, that leaders have leadership qualities. And he was taken, and Hashem chose him to be the one to fight for Israel and bring it back. Okay, let me see some of the things. This was just the story. Some of the things that I have here. Okay, it says who his father was. His father was Gilad. Gilad was the grandfather. So he was, Yiftach was a cousin to the girls, the 7 girls, the 5 girls of Tzlafchad, that fought for property. I'm sure we learned once the story of Bnot Tzlafchad. This is in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Bnot Tzlafchad were the girls that had no brothers, no siblings, and when they were doing the chalukah of the nachalot, of the division of Israel, an inheritance, they came and they said, our father did not have have any sons, and all the inheritance is jogging in the male that the sons get. So will our father's name not get an inheritance in Israel because we are girls? And Moshe Rabbeinu returned to Hashem, and Hashem said that they are right, and they should marry girls from their shevet, and it would be from, and they will inherit land in Israel. So it's interesting that it's a family of people who fought for the land of Israel. Also, it's interesting, guy that we met last week, a person that met last week, the Mekoshesh, the one who gathered on Shabbat wood. He went and gathered wood It was after the sin of the Meraglim. And he was put to death. That's why he wasn't alive to get inheritance in Israel. And our Chachamim say that he did it l'shem shamayim. He wanted to teach the Jews of Israel that we were in the desert, that thought, we sinned with the Meraglim, 20 to 60, will not go into Israel. So many of them thought, so we don't have to keep Shabbos. We don't have to keep the mitzvahs. Because to do an Aveira in public, and he knew he will get punished, just to prove that Hashem, to the people, that you have to keep the mitzvot in the desert, even before you go into Eretz Yisrael. It says that his daughters were very great, learned girls. They knew the halacha, but out of respect for the Chachamim, they went through the regular channels, first to the shofet of 10, and then to 100, and those from 100 to 1,000, till they came up to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu turned to Hashem. It's interesting, they said that the one of 10 said, we're not going to, of 100, we're not going to say the halacha, we'll turn to the ones of 1,000. And the ones of 1,000 said, we're not going to say the halacha, we'll turn to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu knew the halacha, just he saw that everybody takes from the one above, so he wanted to also continue that chain and said, we'll turn to Hashem. And they also knew the halacha, but they wanted it to come down as a mitzvah from above, from Hashem. Okay, so they did marry into the tribe. All right, what else? Yiftach learned from, didn't go straight to war like we saw. He first sent messengers. That he learned also from Moshe Rabbeinu, as we see in the 38 years that we are going through the desert. Moshe Rabbeinu sends sent messengers to all the kings before, if they wanted to go through the land or conquer the land. If you notice, he writes, Moshe Rabbeinu sent all the messengers. And so in the Torah it says, Vayishlach Moshe, that Moshe sent. Gilad Yiftach here, when he's recalling our history in the Haftarah that we just read, he says, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel sent messages. The children of Israel. He doesn't mention so much Moshe because he didn't want them to think that it was Moshe's private fight, Moshe's private conquering, and therefore they as a nation could take it back. No, it was a nation sent by God, given permission by God. Hashem fought our war. It's nation against nation. So that's why if you see in the Haftarah, he the whole time says, and the children of Israel approached the children of Ammon, and the children of Israel, with the blessing of God, were able to conquer, and the children of Israel. And the conquering of these lands are very miraculous. I mean, Sichon and Og were giants, and Moshe conquered them. He killed them. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu, it's very fascinating the way he killed them. He jumped high. Moshe was 10 amos high, and he jumped 10 amos high, and then he only ended up hitting Og Melech HaBashan's ankle. And Og was killed. It was miraculous wars. It was very clear that Hashem wanted us to have this land, and now you cannot come back and ask for the property. It's history repeating itself, what we always go through with people thinking, and nations thinking, they could come, whether it is the British, the Turks, and all the others, that they could come and grab Israel as a country, but it's not. It's something way beyond. And so it's a very important fight here. It's a type of proof of things belong to us and was giving it was given to us forever. It's not till something expires, like Hong Kong. My husband's all the way to Hong Kong, had a treaty for 100 years, and 100 years seems then it's so far away, but actually it's back to China. It now belongs back to China. The diplomatic discussion that the Torah brings out is also very important for us to learn. We should know our history. We should know how we got our land and to use it. I think, Bibi should learn. I don't want to sound very political, but they should learn it, the people who are fighting for our rights, and say, listen, this is the way we got it. And nobody should come and say otherwise. Okay. Now, of course, we have the story of Yiftach's vow. Let me see. I did find some places. I think even though in the Chayenu, he goes a little bit into, does he bring about his vow? 1 second. Where did I just read it? Oh, no, I read it in Chabad.org. Let me bring it up. I'm sure you heard about the story of his vow, right? Did you? There's a book, I think, Yiftach's daughter. Okay, let me just recall. Here, Yiftach, when he's promising to Hashem, if you give me everything, victory over the people of Ammon, whatever comes forth from the door of my house, you see verse 31, towards me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall be to the Lord, and I will offer him up as a burnt offering. And what happened is, well, the Mefarshim tell us, the first thing that came out of his house was his daughter. His daughter. And it's against halacha to bring up a daughter as a burnt offering. All right? So this is where the myth that Jews sacrifice their children to the Baal and to Hashem and stuff like that. I did find, do you see this? I changed the screen. Do you see the new screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I found this. This is written by Itzi Horowitz. I'm sure you all heard of Itzi Horowitz. He's a Chabad Shliach that is battling already a long time. Baruch Hashem, he's alive, battling ALS. He's completely paralyzed, and he writes things with a pen onto the computer attached to his forehead, and I think he just with his eyes. And he wrote this article, and I think he brings here, you could read it, it's about the Haftorah. Okay, the Haftorah, let's read it together. The Haftorah, this is Itzi's, he should have a refuah shalema, and the shir, I want to remind everybody, is Li'ilui Nishmas Hillel ben Chaim. He should have Aliyat Neshama. We should be zeicha to see him. Echef umiyad mamash. We all know that we are in the times of Mashiach, and this is going to be soon. We're in the Et Shalom, the time of peace. Of that, the war that we're fighting now is the last war, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we should go into the Geula Amitit V'Ashlema. So here in the Haftorah, it stops before the end of the chapter where it tells us the tragic story of what became of Yiftach's oath. When Yiftach came home from his victory, his daughter came out to greet him, dancing with a tambourine. She was his only child, and she was the first to come forth from his house. He realized his grave mistake and tore his garments in grief. He told her of the oath he had taken. A smart girl, she brought proof that one is not permitted to sacrifice a human. He didn't want to hear. She brought proof he wasn't obligated to keep this kind of oath. Again, he would not accept her arguments. He asked him for 2 months, and she said, I will go down to the mountains. which meant she will go to the Sanhedrin, the high court, and show them that she was a pure maiden, hoping that perhaps they will annul the vow. In fact, she was right. Her father wasn't obligated to keep his oath. At most, he would have to bring a sacrifice in her stead. Like we do now, we daven instead of the sacrifices we bring up to the Bet HaMikdash. But he was ignorant, remember we said, proud and stubborn, and he wouldn't hear. Okay, what happened to her? There are two opinions. Some say that he actually killed her, and that every year the maidens of Israel would lament her fate for 4 days. Others say he built her a home where she was secluded for the rest of her life, never marrying. According to this opinion, 4 days a year, the Jewish maidens would visit her and share words of comfort over her tragic situation. Okay? The Kohen Gadol at that time was Pinchas. He could have annulled Yiftach's oath. It's not the same Pinchas that we learned in the Chumash, Pasha Pinchas. Pinchas said, but pride got in his way. Pinchas said, he needs me and I should go to him. And Yiftach said, I'm chief of Israel. I should go to Pinchas. Between the two of them, the girl was lost. They were both punished for this. Wherever Yiftach went, limbs would fall off his body and to be buried there. And Pinchas lost his Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, and this is, the rest is...
such a sad story.
Yes, you didn't know the story?
I did know the story, but when I hear it from you and I hear the words, you know, I thought he had no option because I also don't know the laws. But if he had a choice, I mean, that's crazy.
Yes, it makes a tragedy more. Okay, so let's read what Itzi Horowitz says. You know, this should be for him for Shulaima. He says, this is not included in the Haftarah because it has no connection to the Parsha. I include it because Yiftach's oath is mentioned in the Haftarah and the lesson is pertinent to all. Yiftach was a judge for 6 years. What are some of the lessons of the Haftarah? First, Hashem doesn't always give us the holiest person as our leader. He gives us the leader we need and perhaps deserve. Okay? So the people of Mitzrayim deserved Moshe Rabbeinu. It shows what level they were. We got the Rebbe. It shows what level we are in, that we could bring the Geula and connect to the Rebbe. Second, anyone who wants to do God's will can have the Spirit of God with him, even a person like Yiftach. Third, although Yiftach was a boorish man, we see from his words and action that he believed in Hashem. Perhaps our current leaders can learn from him how to stand against the enemies of Israel with truth and without fear, knowing that God is with him. From the story of Yiftach's daughter, we learn not to take vows lightly and not to let pride get into the way of better judgment. May we merit to have great and holy leaders, and may we have true peace and the entirety of our land, and the greatest leader of all, Mashiach, the time has come. I find it very, apropos our times. You know, sometimes people say, I mean, do you guys see how Bibi is so and how Bibi is that? And so I say, you know, I'm not checking into his tzitzis. You know, I know that the Rebbe gave him confidence and said that he would be able to stand up for our pride. So he's the leader that we need right now. He's not our spiritual leader. He's the leader for the victory against the UN and the Goyim. We can't make him Rosh Sanhedrin and not Nisi, in the times of the Mashiach. He is for this purpose, like Yiftach was for that purpose. And if he would have realized that he had to go to the Sanhedrin and have the vow annulled, he should have gone. Unfortunately, at that time, the Kohen Gadol was also not up to par and let his pride get in his way. let his pride get in his way. He should have saved the girl. And this is what the Rebbe teaches us. Don't let pride and say down to somebody. We have to love every person, and not and I was telling her, listen, we're not going to argue because I'm a teacher and you're a student, but you should just know I'm not coming from that place. I'm a Jew and you're a Jew, and we're the same. She goes, no, you're from the Orthodox religion, and I'm from the Reform religion. And I'm saying, no, we're from the same religion. If there's one religion, there's one, and we're all picking and choosing. In your eyes, I picked more mitzvah, and you want to pick less. That's your choice. But we're from the same religion, and that's why we're the same person. There's no division amongst us. There's division in our choices because we're individuals, and God gave us that free choice. But we're from the same place. So, if I tell you that Hashem said so and so, it's your choice to pick, and it's my choice to pick also. And I told her, we don't do everything because we're humans. In your eyes, she goes, you chose you chose kashrut, you chose to get married by a rabbi. I didn't want. So I said, so why are you choosing Tarat HaMishpacha? So she said, because I want a child. And I was told that brings a blessing. So that means you believe in Hashem. She goes, yes. So you want him to bless you because you're going to go to the mikvah. She goes, yes. But you don't want to wear tzanua. I mean, she came to me completely undressed. I had a guest here and he said, whoa, is this the way people in Israel come to the Rebbe? I said, Israelis want us to accept them as they are, and that's what we do. And this is an important lesson, I think, also from the Parsha. They took a leader, a boorish, unlearned man, surrounded by, coarse people who did the fighting for them. This is what Hashem wanted. Everybody who does a good deed. Everybody. So whenever we do a good deed, a mitzvah, we should know that nothing, who am I? I'll bring them a Mashiach. My mitzvah will bring them a Mashiach. Yeah, definitely so. Okay, everybody. Have a great week. And see you next week. Bezat Hashem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shavuot Tov. Thank you.
Learning Torah with a lot of hysteria. A lot of history.
Thank you. Thank you.